Hello, yes, excited to be here. So if you just want to navigate to the purple column, really curious, what's your current role? Are you a designer, are you a developer, or are you a PO, a product owner, or product manager, or something else? If you want to maybe just do a stamp, there's a little stamp, pick your favorite stamp, or you can also type out your current role. That would be great, and use any emoji if you want. So for today's session, I didn't put in any content here because the fake Jamboard is gonna just be used as a tool for us to have fun, collaborate, write down notes together. It's not a presentation. There's no slide. So let's all have fun and let me know who are you and what's your current role? Looks like there are a lot of designers. Yes, that's good. I got some product people, others. Some people put in others. Maybe you can type in what's your current role. Really curious to know. We've got tons of designers. That's great. Anybody want to share what they're looking for today? If you're a designer, are you looking to break into product management, or just really curious what product managers do or how they deal with interviews? Sorry, was a little, was someone speaking? Yeah, feel free to unmute yourself, share why you're here today. Nobody want to share it? That's totally fine. I understand. Cool.
I'm
go ahead.
I'm pivoting from quality assurance, breaking into product management. I saw a little bit of alignment there, and I really be more passion aligned and impact driven instead of so I'm really excited for this session.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I've seen quite a few of PMs who transitioned from QA. QA is actually a pretty good spot as well, because usually they know a lot about the product. You're testing a product, from end to end. So from a lot of times you have to understand the use cases, how people are using it. So it's actually not uncommon for QAs to transition into product management position as well. So hopefully today's session will be useful to you.
So affirming. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Oh, lots of others. What else other than QA? What else? I'm really curious. Hello.
So actually, I'm currently doing my master's in data analytics. However, I was a business analyst for 5 years. So I'm just trying to know a little bit more about product management and if I can make a career out of it.
Yeah. We definitely touch on that. Business analyst, that's a good path as well. Usually they may be going into as a PO or some sort of product manager, associate, and then transition into it. I think maybe the biggest challenge kind of get your foot in the door. So again, today we'll go through some of the interviews. And feel free to, if you already have questions, feel free to add your question at the top, this gray area. We'll kind of go through all the topics and answer questions as we go. So anyways, thank you so much for sharing why you're here today. Feel free to share in the chat or in the fake Jamboard. So because we are all here to learn, I'm also here to learn as well, but I'm here to share some of the experiences, things that I've learned in the past with you. So just want to do a quick introduction who I am today. Did someone want to share anything before we move on? Nope, I'm gonna keep going. So my name's Eva. I have 8 years experience in product management and product design. And I'm actually used to be a UX designer. So I'm a UX designer turned product manager. And now I'm hustling at my own startup called Immisearch, where we help streamline the Canadian immigration. Really want to empower immigrants to be able to navigate the complex immigration process by themselves without really having to hire, a lawyer, because it costs a lot of money. I am an immigrant in Canada, and that explains why I'm doing my own startup around this immigration space. I understand the struggles, being immigrant. I don't know how many immigrants are joining the group sessions today or wanting to move somewhere else. But that's the reason why I quit my full-time job last year, so that I can devote myself 100% to my own startup. And I think some of my colleagues from my last job are here too. Really good to see you. They burned me for leaving, but I think they just really miss me. At least that's what I want to think. Anyways, I had the opportunities to work on 10 different products in the past, and then 6 of them are actually kind of brand new from scratch. So I had the opportunity to work with the team, kind of following the end-to-end process from market research, product research, implementation to launch. That was a lot of fun, and really, really proud that my team and I were able to launch some great products. One of them actually we launched with 0 clients to begin with, and then by the end of the journey, we were able to obtain 19 enterprise clients with average deal over like $20,000, so that's like great plus for our team. Other project I worked on was also pretty interesting. One of them got nominated. I'm gonna mute people, if you can mute yourself, you're not speaking, that would be great. Just going. So yeah, another project I was working on was also nominated for Forbes 30 Under 30 in the healthcare categories, kind of did different bits. So anyways, the reason why I'm here today, because I understand the struggle to transition or trying to break into product. And I have so many great mentors when I was transitioning into product. So really just here wanting to give back to the community and help each other out, because ADPList has such great community. So we should kind of take advantage of that. So for today, we're basically going to go through 4 things. As again, today's sessions for you, if you want to basically ask different questions or focus on specific area, just let me know. But we're going to be going through the interview process. What does it look like, How many rounds, how many stages interviews are for product manager? What are some of the common questions that will be asked during the interview? And also, storytelling is such a big deal. What are some of the methods, tricks that you can kind of learn or just be aware of? And obviously, if any questions, just ask me anything already. So again, I didn't put in any notes in advance because I want to make the session really organic and interactive. If there's any fig jam board or virtual board master, if you want to help taking notes, that would be great. That might be an opportunity for some of you to practice, because a lot of interviews now are taking place virtually. So one of the things we have to really get used to is navigating this online collaboration board. So again, so feel free to write notes as we go. Looks like there are tons of questions already, but I'll get to those questions once I explain the interview process first, because I think maybe that's one of the pieces that's easy to untangle. So I'm gonna just navigate to the interview process column. So generally for product manager, there are 4 rounds of interviews. Obviously, it could be different for different company depending on the size, but generally there are 4. If you're a product designer, it's actually quite similar to how design interview process, what design process look like. So the first one is phone interview. Nothing too unique about product manager interview. You talk to a recruiter on the phone. They will ask you logistic questions. When can you start? How much do you expect for your salary? Something about your background, your work experience in the past. So I'm just gonna write it down. I hope someone will volunteer. So first one is phone interview. And then what's second? Does anybody know? Feel free to do it in the chat. Let's see. Okay. Nobody knows salary. Second salary. Yeah, once you have basically passed the recruiter interview, phone interview, the second round of interview is usually a session with hiring manager. So someone from the product management team. They may bring in other product manager or engineer and design as well. But usually it's a smaller, like 2-3 people in the second round. During that interview, again, they're going to ask more in depth about your past experience. What are some of the products, features that you worked on? What are some of the problems that you have solved? So make sure you basically have a couple stories under your belt. You'll be able to kind of just talk about your experiences with the team based on, obviously, you want to prepare different story, different project based on what the team is looking for. If they're looking for someone have really great design experience, or because all of their PMs currently in their team are really technical, maybe you want to talk more about your design background, or something else, skills that the team doesn't have yet. So make sure you also look up the team. In the first interview, you also could ask the recruiter, why is the team hiring a new PM? So from there, you may be able to gather some more information. So I would say the second round is maybe 2-3 people with the hiring manager. Okay, let me just scroll up to, I'm gonna go through all the process and then we'll go through the question. And then once you pass the second round of the interview, that's usually an hour, that could be longer. The third round is usually a take-home assignment round. So after the second interview, they will ask you to basically, here's the brief, and come back next week and do a presentation. So that could be one of the format. Other format I've seen is they come back and do a on-site, right now virtually, a case study. I don't know if any of you watch a lot of YouTube videos around product design questions during the interview. So that could be also happening on the third round, where you put on the spot. It's really scary. Put on the spot, they give you a question like, how would you build X, or build something in the X industry for company Y? And then through there, you basically have to, depending on the time frame they give you, you have to walk through the whole process from the problem definition, your segment, pain point, what feature you want to build, what are the trade-offs, and then all the way to basically creating a launch plan for that. But I think from my personal experience, I see more just the take-home assignment style, so that they give the candidates a bit more time. So I'm just going to take take-home assignments. So yeah, depending, I guess, on, usually they ask you about to give like a 30 to 45 minutes presentation. Those take-home assignments, also usually they give you a brief. We have a problem, or we have to build this for this type of audience, and then you basically will go from there. Can you, okay, maybe I'll mute. I think I can mute everyone, so I'm gonna go ahead and mute everyone. Okay, does that sound better? Sorry about that. Okay, perfect. Awesome. So once after you finish the assignment, I think the third round, I would think it's like the most time consuming, also a bit nerve-wracking, a difficult round. But obviously practice makes perfect, and also get feedback from the recruiting team and also your peers is really helpful. The very last round, usually you are meeting, depending on the company size, you might be meeting the CEO or just someone from the, obviously the head of product management or other senior leadership from engineering, design, in other departments. So yeah, so this round, I guess it's more like cultural fit. They want to understand your background and stuff. So I'm gonna just say meet with senior leadership. And a lot of the, I guess the question may be repeated in the second rounds because they're the new set of people usually. So they want to get to know again about your background, how you can bridge the gap in their team, what you can offer to the team. So that's kind of like super quick overview on the stages of the product manager interviews. I'm gonna see if there's any question related to interview process. And then feel free, looks like obvious, super smart, already put like a +1 if there's something you really want to be getting an answer from. You feel free to do a +1 so that we can look at those questions. Let's see. The different, I'm going to just pick a few for now. The different responsibility of product designer and a product manager. That's a really good question. So obviously, there's a lot of overlaps between product designer and product manager because both of them need to understand user pain points. They go in user interview, figuring out, what are some of the possible solutions for that specific problem. I would say product designers are more focused on specific verticals. So they focus on like the discovery part, obviously crafting the solution. They will be doing the wireframing, the prototyping, the usability testing. They're the one kind of designing the usability test, versus product manager responsibilities is a lot more wider. They may not go in a lot of depth, like they won't be doing the wireframe or like looking at specific UI or UX components, but they understand the bigger picture. And also they intersect with a lot more different teams. They have to work with, for example, other PMs, customer support, and obviously the development team. So communicating what we have to build alongside with, working with designers, communicating what we're building. Some of them may be creating user stories, another really popular method, basically writing down what are the feature requirements, how you want to slice the feature, because you can just like dump, I want to build, I don't know, what's the next cool thing? The next, I don't know, generation of really cool music playlists just to the engineering team. You have to talk about, what are the technical constraints. So product managers just have to, I guess, have way more breadth. They need to understand how each team intersect with each other, and they also have to work with the marketing team, prepare for the product launch. Do we have customer support who are aware of how a product works so that they can actually support the customers? In short, so product designer focus a lot on obviously the design vertical, but they collaborate definitely a lot with the product manager, where the product manager kind of oversee everything from problem definition, market research, working with the designer, coming up with solution, and all the way to breaking down the feature, prioritize all the features to implementation, working with engineers, making sure QA are aware of the use cases, all the way to the launch. So it's a lot of stuff. Yeah, audio is an issue, right? And you're hearing a deep slow motion type audio. That's pretty weird. Hopefully, I'm recording the session. If it's like the audio isn't so great, hopefully the recorded version is good. Let me pick one more question. Let's see, is there any other question before I move on to the next topic? This one looks like a lot of plus. How to put a price tag on yourself when it's a career transition. Assume this question is asking, in the first round of interview, usually recruiter asks, how much salary do you want, right? It is really awkward. It's actually a book called Never Split the Difference. It's actually a really good book to learn about negotiation. So what they teach is like, try not to, give out the price first. In your first call, the recruiter may ask, what's your expected salary? You could say something like, you're open to different range. You believe that the company will fairly compensate their candidates. So you basically try to postpone that discussion. Usually they're not too pushy. If they're so pushy, the second best tactic to deal with that is giving a range and make sure you're okay to take kind of the lower bound. So when you set a range, making sure you have buffer. And if you are transitioning just new to product, obviously there are tools out there, Glassdoor, LinkedIn Salary. You can do research on how much your peers are getting paid compared with the same people with similar experience. Yeah. So, and this one is awkward, but I guess the one piece of advice I can give to people is like really all of your previous work experience also count for something. I wouldn't completely say if you transition from design or development and then go straight into product management, it means that you have zero experience. That's obviously not the truth because you work in the tech industry. So you might also want to throw in those factors and think about, how you can basically price yourself. Sounds a little weird. Okay. Okay, let's see. Actually, I'll answer one more question before we move on. What's the path to be a product man? What is path to be in product management domain? How to start? What's the role of a product manager? Okay, I picked the most difficult question. Usually, I've seen most commonly people who are transitioning into product management. I think the very first thing is you need to be in the tech industry, or else it's extremely difficult to get a product role when you don't actually have any experience in the tech. But I think, most of us here today have experience. And the second one, if you're already currently working in the tech industry, the easiest way really to get a product role is to basically land a product role within your company. Again, it's pretty difficult to land a product role if you apply to another company, because it's like chicken and egg problem, where most of the positions, the recruiting team, they are looking for someone who has experience. So when you're just transitioning, it's really, even though you can rebrand it, your experience, there's a lot of overlap with product design and even development. You can rebrand it and obviously tie it back and how that contribute to product management. But again, it's quite challenging, but I wouldn't say it's impossible. So if you can get promoted within your company, do that first. Get your foot in the door in the product management world, and then you can obviously transition into other positions. And then the second is, obviously, a lot of you work with product managers as well. Get close to them, have coffee chat with them, learn about what they do, what are the challenges. Maybe you learn something that they may struggle with something, and offer help. Like, how you can get product management experience is to basically do it. So if they're like, oh, you can offer, like, can I break down the features for you? Can I write the user stories or the requirements brief for you? Those were really good steps. And what's the role of product manager? This is like, I guess, a question. The answer would depend on the company. I see a lot of company where a product manager is essentially more of a, how should I frame this? They may be just like focus on writing tickets. They might be more similar to product owner role, where they are very internal facing, writing user story, working with the team, versus some other product manager are more external facing or focusing on market research. That's why when you are looking at job posts, sometimes they put like product manager dash something, monetization, pricing. So because product manager position covers so many grounds, and obviously not everybody can do everything. So a lot of time they're hiring product managers specialized in a specific vertical. Yes, and this session will be recorded. If we are going too fast, you can rewatch the video, and feel free to reach out to me if you have other follow-up questions. So I'm gonna move on to the next one, common interview questions. So obviously you can Google all the interview questions. To get the most out of the session is to get your question answered. So if you have a question here, feel free to post directly in this column. But the very first question I actually want to go through is the classic one that people kind of miss the most, where it's also one of the most important questions. Anybody have a guess what that question is? No? Any guesses? The very first question, and also very important question. Yes, yeah. So smart. Tell me about yourself. Yeah. Favorite product is also a good guess. That definitely comes up. But the very first question, also an important question, is tell me about yourself. Can you tell me, about yourself? Can you introduce yourself? This question, I personally struggle a little bit as well, as this question seems so easy. And most people also miss that the most, because it seems so easy. I can introduce myself. That's easy. But how I would deal with introduce myself question, there are the kind of three points you want to hit. So I'm going to write it here. Introduce yourself question. The very first thing is obviously you want to tell them your name, and also you want to highlight your work experience. Ooh, it's so big. So this one, I guess, is straightforward. You can tell them my name's Eva, and then you can highlight how many years of work experience you have in what industry. Try not to, just basically read off your resume. You want to highlight something, maybe not in your resume, or it's just a really quick summary, because we cannot assume. Most people come in the interview, they already have read your resume. It's good to kind of refresh what that is. So, and if you are someone who may not have direct work experience, or you're just starting out from school, it's also okay to highlight your internship experience or freelance projects that we work on. Those are the things are going to make you stand up. So make sure you highlight your work experience. And the very second thing, I think it's the harder one, is like, what makes you different? Or what makes you stand out? Or not stand up, stand out. So this, again, you have to kind of think through what they're looking for. If it's a company looking for a lot of data experience, you want to highlight some of your data project. And if you're feeling like huge imposter syndrome moment here, I know it's really tough as thinking, oh, what do I do that's better than the other? Talk to your friends, your peers. They may be able to notice something that you're not aware of because you kind of always working on the day-to-day stuff. So definitely talk about what makes you stand out. That could be your work. Talk about the impact. So I don't know if anybody remember the example I used. I said, oh, I worked on 10 different products in the past. 6 of them are basically, we built it from scratch. Pretty cool, right? And then I highlighted 2 impact. One impact is that we were able to land 19 enterprise clients, from 0 to 19 with a pretty awesome deal size over $20,000. And the other example is more of, oh, this healthcare project actually get recognized as one of the projects for Forbes 30's under 30 in the health category. So something makes you different. But if you haven't worked on a lot of projects, it's also okay. Just think about your peer. If you're just in school right now, like, what do you do different than other students in the class? Is it because you take on real-world projects, doing freelancing? This one is a hard one, but spend some time to think about it, definitely. And then the very last one is basically, well, why are you applying to this position? They want to see your passion. You obviously don't need to make things up, but they want to kind of know about who you are as a product manager or as a colleague. So this also, you have to probably craft it differently based on the company that you, sorry. This emoji is so funny. You're basically going to craft the third answer based on the company that you're applying. Maybe you just say, oh, I'm really interested in the finance role. That's why I'm applying to this position, or healthcare, because, maybe a personal story in there. But again, make the introduction, within 1 to 2 minutes. You need to be short and concise and also good. So that's the tough part, short and sweet, and also making an impression. Yes. Yeah, Bob mentioned a really good point. Timing yourself isn't just reading off your resume. So they have your resume already. If you're just reading kind of from top to bottom, you're basically, they're going to get bored pretty quickly and you're going to lose their attention. So make sure you highlight something maybe that's not in your resume, or really quick, sweet summary, oh, I worked in the B2B industry for the past 8 years, specifically in the finance sector. Really nice summary. Awesome. So that's the very basic question, but the very first one you should nail down. Let me see if there's other question people are interested. If not, I'm going to move on. Another question that's pretty common is walk me through some of the product or problem that you have solved. So that will come up in the second round of interview for sure, and also the last round. So making sure you package, you can start just outlining a story, prepare like 10-15 minutes for that. And then based on how much time you have in the interview, you can kind of shorten it, expand it as you want, but making sure you highlight, what are the problems that you've solved in the past with your team, who are the target segment. So for people who are pretty familiar with like design sprint, you kind of want to cover all that, basically all those components. What's the problem? Who are the target audience? Why are you solving that problem compared with all the other problems? So you kind of want to communicate your prioritization framework and what's so unique about the user. So you want to kind of talk about how you uncover some of the pain points. Did you learn something new that's something other people didn't learn about? And obviously how you solve it. What are the solutions? Why did you choose this solution over the other solution? And what are some of the challenges that you have faced while you implement it? And after launch, what did you do? Did you hit the goals? What are the success metrics? So I kind of just throw a lot of components out there. Obviously, this is kind of more like a template. For your project, you may not be the one who's actually defining problem. Maybe someone hand down the project to you. So that's completely okay as well. Just making sure, if you're able to cover all those grounds, talk about it as a story. If you're not, people understand that we all work in companies where we collaborate with other teams, right? So you may not be the one who's responsible for the entire end-to-end process. Okay. Why product management? That's a tough one. I'll get back to it. Just want to see if there's any other question at the top people want to go through. Okay, so yeah, if you want to add more question or throw in a plus, feel free to do so. So there's a question in the chat, why product management? Can you tell us how to go about this? So I think this one is a really tricky one, but also not so tricky at the same time. They really just want to know what's your motivation as a person, as a colleague going into product management. For me, I usually talk about the user aspect. Obviously, I have a product design background. I like talking to customer, uncovering their pain point, and the motivation for me to go into product management. For me personally, this is the actual authentic piece, is that I want to understand the overview of the problem and really focusing on the most important problem to solve. And that's something maybe when I was working in the design role may not be able to do that because I don't have a full picture. I don't have the information from a business perspective, from a technical perspective. So I find it extremely rewarding that if I were able to work with my team to kind of on the most important piece and actually work from the beginning to the end, be able to solve problems for users. So for you, it might be different. Talk about what you're passionate about. They really just want to hear you, who you are as a person. I wouldn't think of it as a super tricky question. Yeah, keep all the questions going. I'm going to pick something at the top. Ooh, okay, this one has 2 thumbs up or pluses. As a UX designer, how many years of design experience is good to then transition in PM? It's a pretty open-ended question. I would say at least a year. Obviously, it's hard to say like what you've done in that 1 year, but I would say 1 year is a pretty good starting point. Obviously, the more years of experience you get, the easier it is. I would say at least 1 year. I think like maybe 3 years, maybe also a sweet point, because at that point you probably have a pretty good understand how tech team works. I don't know if anyone remember your first year of working in a tech company. You're just learning all this concept. What is Scrum? What's Agile? Why are teams doing standard? What are all these pieces that they don't teach in school? So like first year is really just understanding that piece, how teams work together. And obviously you're going to be working on design problems. And I feel like first year is kind of like just getting your soft skills set going, as like how do you talk to stakeholders, understanding how to build relationship. But that's gonna take time. Once after a year, maybe you're getting groove into it. Okay, I'm not so shy to talk to people anymore. I know who to talk to when I don't know something. That's kind of when you advance to second to third year. And then if you also in midway you find a new job, that's also good exposure to work at different teams, kind of understanding different dynamics. Maybe some teams don't use Scrum, some teams use Kanban. Just understanding those things are not necessary in the design school curriculum. So I would say minimum 1 year. Good sweet spot is 2-3 years. But having said that, it doesn't mean that you really need to work. If you really want to go into product management space, you can start today. But obviously, there are going to be challenges that you need to overcome. Okay, fantastic. Let's see. Have you had a communication problem? Have you had difficulty getting someone follow through, and how did you handle it? So yeah, these are really good ones. So there are tons online. I'm going to be sharing storytelling kind of method. I will make sure we have some time for that. So obviously I can tell my story, but for how I prepare for my interview is I write out some of the common questions, but really for each question, I'm kind of preparing like two stories at least that I can tell So because if you're asked on the spot, sometimes it's hard to remember, what did I do 2 years ago again? So make sure you kind of write down all the stories in bullet, and then I'll be sharing kind of the storytelling methods towards the end. So feel free to add your question. There's another one I kind of want to go through because there's a fun and also challenging one. So this question is around product design. Usually they will ask, oh, can you build a new product for X industry for company Y? It's a pretty open-ended question, right? So some of us, I will panic like, okay, this is so vague. So I was just gonna go through that product design question because I think it's fun and we have a lot of product designers here. Product design question. Can you, it could be, can you improve something or can you build something? I'm just gonna go with build something for company. And obviously the company is usually their company. So for those who watch this YouTube video, if you're Facebook, they may be like, oh, can you build a, I don't know, I don't know, what is that? Music playlist for Facebook, or a movie, or another social feature or product for Facebook, or some, or actually they call Meta now. So it's pretty open-ended. So from there, what they're looking for is like, if they throw you a problem, are you able to navigate it, refine it on your own, and basically figure out the next step? And they want to understand how you approach the problems. So this one is, I found it is pretty interesting one. So let's just go through it together real quick. I'm gonna write down all the bullets already, and then you can kind of understand how you will go about this question. So define segment. So segments are your target audience from a design product design vocabulary. That could be just your users. For product manager, we're thinking about kind of which slice of the pie. So you want to define your target segment. We'll go in deep a bit later. And then obviously user pain points. Whoops. Pain points, and then the third one is solution ideation and prioritization. And then product features, what's your MVP, trade-offs. There are tons of template you can use online, but this is kind of the flow I personally really like. And obviously summarize what you talked about and what's missing here. Anybody know what's actually the first step before you go in? Let me define the problem for you. Anybody want to make a guess? If you're a product designer, you should know this too. Or anyone actually really in the tech industry. What's the really first thing you need to talk about? Yes, you guys are super awesome. Context, yes. Context, vision, what your clarification question. Yes, ask question. Because if you're kind of, I have seen in some of the interviews, people, maybe they're getting nervous or they're given a problem they're really familiar with, maybe they practice. They kind of just forgot to ask questions and make all these assumptions. Yeah, to make all these assumptions. They got so excited and just went in the project right away, which was kind of sad because like, oh, they didn't do the most important thing, to ask clarifying questions. So what are some of the clarifying questions that you can ask? You could ask, oh, why does your company want to go into that space? What are some of the problems you want to solve? What's the company's vision and mission? So you can ask those questions. So make sure you ask questions before you get into that. What success metrics? So we'll go to that. So defining segment is basically your target audience. So usually the techniques that they recommend, or I use as well, is kind of always give 3 options. And from there, you can have a discussion with the interviewer, and then they will help you kind of guide in which option you want to go through. So really, this exercise isn't, the purpose isn't actually execute the best feature or product. They want to understand your thought process. So make sure you kind of lay out what you're thinking, what are the 3 options. So for example, if we're going healthcare, example, just build something for healthcare. From defining the segment, you might be like, oh, maybe there's the teenager group, there's the young adults, and there's the elderly. So based on your company's target segment currently, I think the focus is for elderly. So you might talk about this, and then if it's incorrect, make sure you lay out your assumptions as well. If it's wrong, that they will usually tell you, or you can ask, is there a fair assumption, or do you agree with my decision for choosing this target segment? So for each way of these basically bullets, you want to kind of lay out three options and then explain why you pick that option. And then obviously user pain points. So let's say I picked, what did I say? Let's say I pick adults, and then you talk about what are their user pain points. So from there, you really want to build a persona from there. You want to ask them a question. You want to lay out, let's say we're dealing something with COVID. And then for user pain point, what are some of the user pain points for adults, around COVID? Let me think. Or maybe it's because they don't know who else are getting exposed to COVID. And if they get COVID, then they can go to work. Or what else? It's really hard to get tested or get result fast because PCR tests take, I don't know, the free one going to take 2 days to get back the result. And people may not even know where to get the test kit. So you want to lay out 3 problems, and from there you pick one and explain why. And then there's some framework you can use. I'm going to steal this text. Framework. Then you can explain, how I'm going to prioritize or select my pain point is I'm going to use this framework, impact versus number of users, versus how aligned the problem is to the company's strategy. So these 3 pillars can be something else. So that's just where you kind of get feedback. But this is kind of the one I like. Impact is like, if we solve this problem, how much difference, how can we actually improve their life quality? Number of users, are we just actually, that's kind of like, how big is the slice of the pie? Is this problem only affecting a very small portion of people, or actually a lot? And then the strategy is kind of, I think, depends on the company's mission and vision. That could be different as well. So from there, you nail down the user pain point. IDA solution. For solution ideation, again, give three options. Usually the first one's like really safe bet, something I guess more boring, or it's just like, okay, you can see that working. And then second one is more the aggressive one, but also interesting one. And then third one, what they call is like the moonshot idea, something crazy. So then eventually you kind of pick usually the middle one, which is like not so boring, somewhat aggressive, but like not unrealistic one. And from there, you want to break it down into feature. So I know going really, really quickly, if you're interested in this kind of question, there are tons of fun YouTube videos you can watch, but I kind of just want to let you know what's expected for you to answer. So just get a quick overview today. Don't worry if you feel like, I don't know how to answer that. There's tons of materials online, but at least today you're aware that they may ask this question. So from there, you want to break down into product feature, what's in MVP, talking about trade-offs, why you choose specific feature versus the other. Someone asked about what success metrics. That's basically how you define success. Like, how do you know you solved the problem? You built something. How do you know you solved the problem? So you may want to set up success criteria. Usually those are quantitative, so something you can measure. So maybe our user engagement, how much time each user used your product, or maybe you want to reduce the usage of time because it's the user are able to complete the task with a shorter amount of time because of the improved usability. So it depends on what you're working on. Success metrics could be different. And last but not least, make sure you kind of summarize what you talked about. So for problem X, we have selected this target audience because they have these pain points. We're going to be solving those problems by building this solution. And the reason why we choose that over the other is because this is, and we know we are able to solve this problem because of these success metrics. I know so let's get a quick overview on product design question. I think this very question can like take the whole group session on its own very, very easily. Let's see, is another question on this one. When are we expected to create prototypes in wireframes? So usually for take-home assignments, depending on the question, but I see a pretty popular one is they give you a brief, it's kind of like the product design question we went through, except you can take it home and kind of work on it. From there, I find it really useful to, it's not required, but if you have prototyping skill, wireframing skill, definitely do that in the product feature and also the MVP section. If you're able to illustrate, communicate what your MVP looks like in a visual way, that's definitely a plus. The wireframing fidelity that they're looking for, it's obviously not as polished as what we would expect a product designer would do for a high fidelity markup. Again, what's the purpose to have a prototype or wireframe in the interview is to communicate, what's your vision of the solution. So that's when you would probably do that. For interview question, I haven't seen any where they like throw you like a wireframe, you have to do something on the spot. That's not something they usually test on, because they just really want to know if you're able to work with teams to solve a problem. And usually product managers have they have designers in the team, so that's not I guess the purpose. The purpose is can you kind of map out the user flow? So you might also want to wireframe the user flow. Are you referring to what features made a product? I think I need a bit more context on this, but you can keep typing your question. I'll come back to this. Just want to see if there's any question at the top. People want to here. I was a startup co-founder and one of the product guys. I'm struggling to get an official PM role since I get feedback that I'm too junior or too senior for the role. How to prepare for the HR screening? Yeah, sorry to hear that, because you sound like co-founder. I personally really like co-founder as a product manager, because as a co-founder, you probably have to wear a lot of hats, which is really, really similar to what product manager have to do. I will investigate a bit more as the reason why you get rejected. Here you said you're getting rejected because you are too junior or too senior for a role. Are you applying for the same position, or are you kind of testing out the feedback you get when you apply to a more senior PM role versus junior PM role? Are you able to pass the first HR screening? Like, are you getting phone interviews? Where are you getting stuck? I might need more information to answer this, so feel free to find me on LinkedIn. I'll maybe share that afterwards, or Google me, find me, Eva Lee, so that I can answer your question a bit better. Let's see. Okay, so let's I mean, that's tons of questions. Just want to see if there's another interesting question we want to be talking about. Here, maybe we can do this too. We've got 2 pluses here. Insight on how to showcase product skills when switching from a different industry. Financing. So you're currently in finance, or you're currently switching out of finance. So when teams are hiring product managers, they don't necessarily need them to have like the direct experience in that specific industry. It's super common when you work at finance and then you work at somewhere else, as long as obviously they're tech. B2B versus B2C may have an impact because they're quite different, especially, if you're in the B2B enterprise sector versus B2C, how you deal with things may be pretty different. The turnaround time might be much quicker. How you obtain client feedback also is a bit different, but those are also not like deal breakers for the hiring teams. What I would focus on is what are some of the transferable skills? What are some of the products that you worked on in the past in the finance sector that could be, basically how that will help their current team. I don't know what industry you want to work on. Maybe you can tell me. Let's say you want to work, what's a good company? I don't know, legal. we should make legal more accessible and stuff. You want to switch to legal, law tech, legal tech from finance. What are some of the overlaps? Maybe in finance, you are pretty used to understanding kind of the compliance process and other challenges like that, how that would apply to that. But most of the time, they're not really looking for direct industry experience. I'll definitely focus on like, your product portfolio, so what problem you've solved. I think those are way more interesting. Obviously, if another candidate has worked in finance, they may have more advantage because usually the hiring team assume that they know a bit more. But again, those are the things that product manager are expected to learn when they're getting onboarded to the team. So I'm not too worried about kind of the industry difference part. Hope that is helpful. And moving on to the next question. How difficult is it to transition from more of a traditional product or design role like graphic design, marketing, illustration, motion design, as opposed to a tech-based role like UX, product design, or front-end designer? I imagine the gap is much wider, but is it impossible? Oh, hey, it's Steph! It's one of my good friends. I didn't know you're here today. Hi, Steph. Yeah, so I think you're right on the point. Transitioning without, with graphic design background is definitely a bit difficult. But even for graphic designer or other more traditional design role, it varies, right? Were you able to work with other developers or in an agile environment? Those could be the variables. But I would say there's definitely a bigger gap than product designer who's already, in the day-to-day understanding, they're working really closely with product managers. So you may have slightly disadvantage than the other, so-called designers that are in more agile space, are used to kind of the design sprint flow or working in Scrum environment. But I wouldn't say it's impossible. Again, I think it's kind of just like designer, you want to build your portfolio. Obviously, for product manager, we don't need a website or anything. You can if you want, but a lot of things is like, have you solved problems in the past? What have you launched? So again, I will kind of start building a portfolio. Like if you currently in like motion design industry, like, are you working with project leads? Project leads are not the same as product manager, but at least that's kind of one step closer to product management, how they're managing their project. And then if you actually have a product manager in the team, that's even better. You want to shadow them, see if you can help them out, what they're working on. Are they preparing for a presentation? Kind of just take pieces here and there so that you have more basically cases under your belt, even though you may not have the direct title. And then, yeah, just mingle with me, Steph. Talk to other product managers and see how you can get in there. Sometimes an easier way to transition is maybe working in a smaller company. Maybe you start as a designer, and then naturally there's tons of responsibility in a startup, and sometimes it's chaotic. That's kind of how I actually got interested in product management. I was working in a startup as a UX designer. We had product manager, but everyone's so busy, and naturally stepped in the product management space, trying to prioritize features and kind of what the next big thing is, without actually knowing I was doing a bit of product management work, because I was really, really curious to know like why we're prioritizing this bug versus the other features that we're doing. So I was naturally getting in conversation with the PMs there. So I would definitely encourage you to do the same if you want to transition, maybe work in a startup or mingle with product managers, see if there's any opportunities. It's not impossible, but it's definitely a bit harder. Okay, we've got 6 minutes and like horrible at time management. Just kidding. I want to make this session basically pretty organic, go with the flow. Since we only have 6 minutes left, I realized that's one more topic we need to cover. So storytelling methods. Oh yes, STAR is actually pretty much my favorite. I'm gonna actually copy and paste the whole thing here so you don't have to wait. So STAR method is talk about your situation, tasks, action, or results. Actually one of my favorite. So if you feel like when you prepare for each interview question, if it sometimes like it's not as structured, this could be a really good start. But I wouldn't use it as sometimes you need to know how to break the rules. So making it natural, practice a lot, talk to your friends about it, share your stories. But I found the STAR method is pretty good. You talk about the context of the situation, oh, we have this problem. and some of the tasks, so some of the what's required to do, and then what action have you taken, and then some of the results. Obviously, sometimes you solve a thing, you may not be able to measure it, but the result could be also qualitative. I was able to resolve conflict as an example. So that's another method. STAR method is pretty popular. Another one, just want to share it. You don't have to use all of these, but I do want to share. There's another one called Circle. It's a bit longer, but I'm not going to go through it because I think everybody can read it, but it's just kind of throwing some names out there so that you can look at deeper to see what you like. I think what's most important is that what you are comfortable with. And then from there, at the beginning, it might be feel a little bit awkward. It's like, oh, you feel like you're writing an essay, you have to hit this point. But as you're writing it more and then kind of practice more, telling a story, that you're naturally already thinking about, oh, what did I do? What's the impact? So that it'll be more natural to you. But personally, I like the STAR method a bit more. But yeah, thank you for sharing this. Is the recording available? Yes, it will be available. 3 more minutes. Oh my God, this session flies super quickly. As usual, I love ADP's group session because all of you are super engaging, have really great questions. Just want to scan through if there's anything up there that has a lot of votes and I haven't covered, or in the chat. Yes, I can email the recording to all of you. And this fake Jamboard, I'm gonna maybe leave it for another day or so, but I'm gonna get rid of it. So if you wanna take any notes, take any screenshot, you can do that after the session. Let's see, is anything else? Yeah, so someone put a note, this seems best for a longer interview. So you also might want to practice different storytelling methods depending on if they give you a brief, for a presentation, you might want to do longer, or if it's just one of the many questions they ask in the second round of interview, you might want to do a shorter version. I find it helpful to write it super long and then kind of trim it down later. Yes, maybe we should just wrap it up because I know we fly through the last session pretty quickly. I see people are sharing their LinkedIn. Why don't we just do that now? Because I think one of the important pieces to land a job in product management space is to network as well. So everybody, if you're free to kind of copy and paste your LinkedIn URL so that we can get connected. I think the tech community or the design product community is really important. So that, if there's an opening somewhere else, someone might remember you. Oh, Steph was really interested in the product space. We have this interesting role where the designer will work really closely with the product manager, or the team doesn't have a product manager yet. We're looking for a designer that can basically self-direct without having a lot of guidance. So super important to put yourself out there. Tell your community, share with your peers like what you're looking for, what are your struggles. Usually I find people really, really nice. I think it's one of the unique thing about at least the tech community I'm in, like people are super willing to help you, versus some other industry may not be the same. So I'll definitely take advantage of that. So I guess we would just wrap up here. Thank you so much for coming. I'm gonna leave the group, the conference call longer so that we can see the chat history and connect with each other, add each other on LinkedIn. But it's been a super fun session. It's fly by super quickly. I'm like, oh, it's already at time. Thank you so much for being such a great audience. I have a lot of great questions. Feel free to reach out to me if you have other follow-up questions that you want to ask. Again, I'm pretty passionate, just try to get more people into product, especially the minority groups. Sadly, the product management space is still pretty male-dominated, occasions. So it'll be nice to see different representatives in that space. That's also some of my personal passion as well. But again, we're at time. Thank you so much for coming today. It's been really, really fun. Connect with each other on LinkedIn. It's been a blast. And I don't know where you are. Have a great night or have a good day. Thank you so much. Bye.